Be happy anyway. I want to talk about that concept. Be happy anyway. Now, the concept as written is that it's a choice to be happy, right? So be happy anyway, regardless of what's going on. Be happy anyway. So that would indicate that you're a choice to be happy, regardless to what's going on around you or within you, right? So I have a question. Is it possible to be happy no matter what is going on? Yes or no?
Yes.
Anybody say no? Okay, well, I think the answer is no. And yes. I think it's no and yes. I mean, the polarity of it, yes. No. Is it possible to be happy no matter what is going on? Some people will say no. They will say no. So we can say theoretically, yes, that's it has to be, but it's not what's happening. So let's get real. Is it happy? Is it possible to be happy no matter what's going on? For some people, that answer is no. No. If this is going on in the world right now, I can't be happy. It just makes me unhappy, right? And some people will say, you know what? I have choice, so I can choose to be happy regardless of what is going on. So the answer really is yes and no, depending on the individual, right? Now, our reactions come from our beliefs. We can react negatively or positively based on how we believe the world is and what we believe our part in this world is. So really, the answer to that question, can you be happy no matter what is going on, it depends on the type of belief system you embody. It depends on your already established premises of life, your AEPs. If you believe that you're in charge of your mind, then you know you can be happy no matter what's going on. If you think the world is more impactful than your mind, then you're kind of out of luck, right? So choice is a decision you make at any given moment. Every moment you are making choices. So it's your choice to be happy. It's your choice to be sad. But is it your choice to be experiencing what's going on in the world around you? Yes or no? Yes and no. It is your choice unless you've given that choice away years ago. Unless you've decided that you don't have a choice when this happens, or you don't have a choice when this person says this. You just want to smack them. Anybody? Yeah. So choice. Can I be happy anyway? Was I happy that my computer shut down and my files may have been lost forever? Was I happy? No, I wasn't happy. Did I choose to be happy anyway? Yes, I did. What are you, nuts? Of course I did. I am a religious scientist. I'm not going to sit in that muck. Of course I did. I decided to be happy anyway. At times. And then there were moments when I didn't, right? And you know what's funny? The moments when I really was annoyed, I got even more annoyed about the fact that I was annoyed because I'm a minister in religious science and I shouldn't be annoyed because I should be okay with this. And then you're just like, boom. You know, and then you're just like your mother, your daughter. It's all crazy. So I let myself feel untethered. And 2 weeks ago came in here and gave a talk called Untethered. I felt what I felt and I learned from it. I really learned from that experience. Now, what you don't know is what ended up happening. So where are my slides? So I want to go here. Mark Twain. No wonder the truth is stronger than fiction. Fiction has to make sense. What do you think that means? As writers of fiction, writers of plays and musicals, we're constantly in script meetings about this doesn't make sense. This wouldn't happen. So this doesn't make sense. So we don't write it because it doesn't make sense. And the logical mind is going to sit there and go, no, that would not happen. Yet there are things that happen in life that make no sense and have no logic. And I'm going to give you one. So my computer was sent to Texas where it was probed, and they tried to get the files off of it for me, and called me a few days later to say that the files are not retrievable. And I said, okay. They said, we can reboot your computer, but you will lose all of your files. But there is another company in Novato, California, that could possibly do this. And I said, all right, send it there. And they said, very expensive. I said, just send it there. So they sent it there. Took a day or two to get there. Then they called me and said, we think we can do it. It's going to cost somewhere between $900 and $4,500. And I said, what's the difference? I mean, what's the disparity? And they said, well, $900 means we found a file or two. $4,500 means we've recaptured all of your files. And I said, I feel like I should be hoping you find all my files, and yet I'm kind of hoping you find the two I need. And they said, well, if you're giving us permission, we will go ahead and see what we find, and then we'll tell you what the price is. I was, okay. So they call me with the really good news that they found all my files. And I was like, whatever, here's my credit card. Good. That's not the crazy part at all. I was over that right away. So then my computer comes back to me. And of course, I've got this backup drive now with all my files. And I have a computer that still has an exclamation point with a circle around it, because they didn't reboot my computer. That company doesn't do that. The Texas company would have done that, which means take your computer back to Apple, and they will reboot your computer. So I go to Apple. I walk into Apple in Sherman Oaks, and it is a zoo. It is so crowded. And I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. And I couldn't get an appointment, so I thought I'd take my chances and go without an appointment. So I walked to this beautiful woman. This woman was standing in the back helping 3 people with their iPhones, and I just walked to something, how you get that sense? So something walked me to her, and I said, I'm here to just drop off my computer. She goes, do you have an appointment? I was like, no. And she went, what are you, crazy? I mean, literally. She didn't say, what are you, crazy? But she said something like, that's not a good idea. And she said, just wait a minute. And then she said, what are you trying to do? I said, well, I took my computer to the Grove, and they told me I had to ship it to Texas, and then it went to Novato, and now it's back, but it's exactly the way it was, and I need to get it rebooted. So I just need to drop it off. And she said, how much did that cost you? And I said, you don't want to know. She goes, oh, I do know. I said, yeah, it was like $4,700. I said, that's not even counting the $300 it cost to send it. So it was around $5,000. She goes, okay. And she goes, just open your computer. And then she turned to me. She's helping somebody else with their iPhone. She was so short with everybody. She's like, just press it. And then she turns back to me, and I'm thinking, I'm sure I picked the right person. And I said something about my husband, and she said, my wife does that all the time. And I went, and we're home. So I opened my computer, and she just starts doing things. While she's talking to other people, she's doing things. She goes, what you don't know is that you were very lucky that you came to me, because I'm actually someone that does this work in the back. I'm only out here to help a friend. I was like, oh, okay. She goes, let me just play with this. So I'm watching my computer like burp and do little things, and a little light shines up, and then the exclamation point goes away, and I'm like, what is going on? And then she does one last thing, and the computer comes back with all of my files. Why are you applauding? I already had my files. And I am now staring at this computer. No wonder the truth is stranger than fiction. And I said to her, wait, there's all my files. She said, oh. She said, that never happens. I said, but why would that happen? She said, I don't know. I said, really? I said, you're the technician. So sometimes it comes back with the files. She went, I've heard that it does, but I've never seen it. Usually the files are gone when you reboot a computer. And I was like, but they're all there. And I'm down there like opening them up and looking at my scripts. I was like, everything's still here. I'm now standing in the zoo called Apple, and people are just all around me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, this is just so bizarre. So I got my computer back. My computer's great. It got upgraded. And everything's fine with my computer. Let's move on to the lesson that I learned. I was trying to make sense out of the senseless. And I recognized in that moment that if I continued to try to make sense out of the senseless, I was on this downward spiral to nowhere, and I was never going to get an answer. And I started to ask myself the question, what did I do to create this experience of my computer that took me, was it maybe a week and a half? By the time I sent it, they said no. They said $4,500. It comes back. Apple turns it on. And frankly, nothing needed to have been done. I just apparently needed to be like, where's Waldo, and mail myself around the world. If you all remember that, where that little kids project they do where they mail it all over the world. Yeah, that's how I felt. So, Pablo Picasso. The world today doesn't make sense, so why should I paint pictures that do? Making sense out of things sometimes loses the truth of that thing. Working so hard to make sense out of everything very often loses the very truth that is at the heart of the thing you're trying to make sense of, because you are ignoring the only thing that can make sense out of all of it, and that is you, your heart, your soul, your intuition, your knowing, your personal relationship with whatever that thing is. When we go outside of ourselves and try to make sense with all the facts, all of the figures, this teaching, we try to make sense with all of the science, we're missing the point. It's not a bad thing to make sense. Don't get me wrong. I want to make sense out of things, but when something doesn't make sense, that should not be an invitation to go crazy. And that's what we do. I think we make ourselves crazy. So I gave an acronym for fun a couple weeks ago, Forever Understanding Nothing. And I've gotten a lot of feedback about that, about this idea. What does it mean to forever understand nothing? Is it really okay to never understand anything? That's not what I meant. What I meant was to forever understand nothing means even when I understand something, understand that it might be something else as well. Or it might be something else altogether, no matter what. And putting myself in that position. And so I drove home from Apple. I got home. I told Kevin right away, and I loved his expression. He just looked at me. I could tell he had a similar reaction that I might have had at the beginning. And he just went, well, good. He's like, all the files are back. That's all we need to know. And that was the truth. All the files are back. That's all I need to know. But here's what I really need to know. What Reverend Rita Andriello said to me when it all began. She said, just remember, nothing is ever lost. And you know, to someone who had just lost all of their files of the last 5 years, I wanted to slap her. I really did. I said, I understand the science of mind concept of nothing is ever lost, but at this moment, my files are lost. And she said, well, you can live in your files are lost. I'm going to live in your files are never lost. So, of course, I called her right away and said, my files are all right back on my computer. She said, well, it's exactly where I expected them to be. Yeah. So here's the title of my talk. You again? Let me explain what this is about. When my computer opened up and all my files were there, I literally had this feeling. I was like, you again? Oh my God, this is exactly what I had before all this bull crap happened. I said, so I had this feeling of like, do I even want to pick up this computer? Because I really enjoyed untethering myself from it. But you're back exactly the way you were. Nothing's changed. It's like, you again? Now, how many times in our lives does something show up in our life exactly the way it showed up last time when you're like, oh no, not this again, not you again, not this thing again, not this experience again, not this person again, with a different look, but same person again. So I had this idea as I was standing there when the computer came on. I had this you again feeling. I was like, you know, James, you can have life exactly the way it was when the computer was doing fine before it broke down, or you can have learned something from all of this. You just had your beautiful untethered feeling in that moment. So are you just expecting to pick this computer up and get it all freaking tethered again to it and have it rule your life again and have it be so important? I said, well, first of all, I have a backup now, so I'm not going to care or worry about where and the backup is being put on the computer, so I'm not going to worry about that again. But am I going to continue to suddenly get tethered back again? Am I going to just do the same old again because it's corrected itself and here it is again? So the answer is no. Common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired by age 18. So, how often do you face the same part of yourself over and over and over again during your lifetime? How often do you face the same characteristic of yourself, the same aspect of yourself, the same reactions over and over again? How many times does something happen and you go back to your default setting, which you know isn't logical and doesn't make spiritual sense, but you do it anyway? I love this. A collection of prejudices. I looked up prejudice, a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or even actual experience. You have prejudices, you have beliefs, you have thoughts that you have, well, Stan just brought one so beautifully to cite for us. The idea of, at 7, did you say you were? 7 years old, creating a prejudice against horses. They're mean, they're angry, they're going to kill me, right? He has a whole different feeling of it now, but carried that his whole life. How many do we have? What prejudices are we still living with? What prejudices are we still working with? What is stopping us, perhaps in our lives, from the things that we want to do, we want to be? That's where this whole concept comes. You again? We have to start noticing them. We have to start being willing to call them out and say, no, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And conversely, I think what's really important for me is that conversely, there are things about myself that I think could be corrected. Don't laugh. That Kevin thinks should be corrected. I can't tell you how many times procrastination has served me well. Right, Eric? Yes, we are brothers on that. No, but there are certain aspects of me that sometimes maybe I wish I would say to myself, that's not the perfect me. That's not who I should be in this moment. We've had an ongoing issue at this center with our banking issue when we were scammed. It has taken, what are we up to, Doug? 58 emails? I think it said 58 on the last thing. 58 emails and maybe 20 phone calls. Maybe I'm into the 60s now after those last 2 that I sent. And I don't lose my patience often. I really don't. I take pride in being very calm and being patient and being compassionate and caring and loving to people. I really take great pride in that. But the other day, sitting in my office on the 20th call to Stripe and the 58th email that had gone back, when someone tried to explain to me again what was going on, I lost my mind. I did. I just lost my mind. And poor Kevin is sitting in the living room having a business meeting. But from 2 doors down, I'm like, I don't care! And I am losing my mind. And it's so not me. And I got off the phone, and I was like, I said, okay, James, take a deep breath. Get your 90, get that 40 hertz out, put it in your head. I did. I put the music on, I started breathing, and then I just turned the music off, and I went, no! I am pissed off! And I thought to myself, I live with a man who believes that sometimes you just have to get angry and tell somebody what you need to tell them. And I'm always trying to get him to stop that. I'm like, it always sounds so angry when you yell at people. Yet, I don't think he's ever yelled at anyone the way I had just yelled at people. And I thought to myself, I'm about to give a talk and talk about this whole idea of the things that have stopped us that we need to be. But we're also stopping ourselves because we think we have to be something different than we actually are. Is it not spiritual to tell someone that they really are doing it wrong? Did Jesus suddenly not become spiritual when he turned over the tables at the market? It's the most I ever talk about Jesus, but but it's true. I loved playing that part. When I played Jesus, the 3 times I played him, I loved the scene where I got to throw all the tables and yell at people and sing at the top of my lungs because they were not acting with integrity. So this was a big lesson for me this week, because I had to start saying to myself, you need to start embracing all aspects of yourself, because it's choice. Back to Margaret's song. Be happy anyway, or be upset if you need to be upset. Don't push it back. Don't think that there's some paradigm that you have to be. Be who you are, but with integrity. So this whole idea of you again, I felt like the world had tricked me. I felt that Texas tricked me, and then I felt that California, Nevada tricked me. Then I thought the first guy that looked at my computer tricked me. He didn't know what he was doing. I had all of these. The computer tricked me. This guy tricked me. The universe tricked me. And then I went to, wait, I tricked me, because I bought into all of it. I bought into the drama. I bought into the stress. I bought into the, oh my God, my files may be gone forever. I bought into the, now what? And then I corrected, because I corrected with the untethered understanding. But then I went back once the computer came back, and I was like, oh my God, the world tricked me. How often have I felt as if I've been tricked in life? And I have that question to you. How often have you felt you've been tricked, you've been betrayed, you have been treated badly, you have been whatever, add whatever you want to add? How often has that happened? Every time that happens, it's you again. Because we're buying into a belief that we can be tricked, or that we can be taken advantage of, or that we can be victims. Goes back to Margaret's song. Be happy anyway. Be conscious anyway. Be personally, responsibly conscious anyway. So that whatever is going on, no matter what, you are consciously on top of your game. So how about you can't be tricked, and there is no logical answer here, and even more so, you don't need a logical answer. Be happy anyway. Without the logic, without the logical answer, be happy anyway. That's the choice. That is the amazing choice. So, I have this quote for you from Ernest Holmes. We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible to the invisible. Because this is where this whole thing brought me. We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible to the invisible. Do we? Do we all look forward to the day when science and religion will walk hand in hand from the Newtonian world of the visible to the quantum field of the invisible? Do we? That's really where I got to with this quote. Do we need science to prove what we intuitively know? Science can't tell you why my files showed up, but they did. Science will never talk to you about God, but God is as real as I am standing here, because I am God, and so are you. So do we really need all of that? I mean, I think it's important what Stephen Hawking has to say. Look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Be curious. I got a beautiful, brilliant paper from Brad Kiefer this week where he talked about running on the field and tripping and falling, and then hiring someone to help him with that. And basically what I got from your paper was that his teacher helped him to realize he was looking too much down at his feet, so that by the time whatever he would stumble over showed up, it was too late because he's right there, as opposed to look out, see it all, have a perspective so that you see what's coming, and constantly be moving forward. lest you think your paper did not impact me. So I'm very curious how my computer adventure came to be. But I'm not going to find it by staring at my computer. The only way I'm going to know what that was all about is to look up, and to really look up at the stars and look within to myself and find out. We spend a lot of time here talking about quantum, talking about science, talking about the observer effect, and all of those different theories and all of those different theorems that we learn in all of the newness of what science is bringing us. But at the end of the day, what we teach here, what we feel here, what we know here, is not scientifically proven. And I can't say this is science, even though it's called religious science. You know, the first page, the very first thing Ernest Holmes wrote in that book called Religious Science, The Science of Mind, was, we look forward to a day when science can prove this. Well, science is telling us a lot more and giving us way more support on what we believe. But if we spend all of our time making science prove what we intuitively know and not let what we intuitively know drive us, we've missed the point. And so, I guess Waldo had to be shipped all over the country for me to come back to an understanding of quantum and get back to religious science and get back to spirituality and get back to what's in my heart. I still want to know what's in my brain. I want to know what science has to say. But more importantly, I want to know what that thing inside of me has to say. And I'm going to hear that from you. Namaste.